What is up, Drabonis? JJ back here with, yes, the Kush making his return. It's been a while. He ghosted me last week, so he was supposed to make his return last week and then ghosted me. But either way, we're very happy to have you back. I know we're getting some comments over my father's appearance yesterday.
What happened? Please. You said you didn't want to tell me about it. Just go ahead and do so if you'd like to.
He made some interesting remarks about who Aaron Rodgers is attracted to.
Okay.
He basically made a claim with some evidence that Aaron Rodgers was gay.
Was it real evidence?
Yeah, he made some claims like, you never really see him in public with individuals like Shailene Woodley or Danica Patrick.
So basically, he went straight Putin and just was like, yeah, this is what happened, just made up a bunch of facts and verbally went to war on Aaron Rodgers with no proof.
And then I don't even know. Like, he also said that he's been living with the same guy he went to Cal with. I don't even know if that's true.
Probably not.
He just referenced it.
Yeah.
And then he also started flashing cash and said for people to Google him and come to his house if they want the money because he'll turn his alarm off. And
in Virginia?
In Virginia, yeah, he'll turn his alarm off and he's packing heat and he hasn't fired a bullet in like 4 years, so he's itching.
I feel like he was huffing. I feel like he was probably by a gas can, and before the show started, he decided to just breathe it all in because that sounds just like it's completely out of left field.
He did have a lot of interesting. I mean, it's been a while since he's been on one of these shows, but he did have a lot of interesting things to say.
Yeah.
And as always, is very good at catching me off guard with with things that he has to say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, either way, what's been going on with Holden? What's up with life?
Nothing. JJ has an appearance on my VSiN show tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. What is that? That's at like 8:30 Eastern. I don't know what time that is Eastern time, but it's sometime. So if you got that, you'll come on.
Yeah,
I'll look a lot more professional than that. I have to throw on like a jacket and a coat, and I'll actually have my background. It's amazing what they do, but I'm sitting here in Florida right now on it's the worst place in the history of the world. They had one book where you could bet, and basically right before I put the money in, they shut down. And thank God I didn't put the money in. So you can't do anything in Florida, really, except for be white trash, wrestle alligators, and I don't know what else.
Highlight still got to be big out there, right?
Huh?
Highlight?
I don't think you can legally bet on it. I don't know how to bet it either. So
I used to bet when I was younger. My dad used to take me. We used to go to. It was like a little. It looked like a little. It wasn't like a. It was like going to a gymnasium, but
it's fun. But I'm in North Florida, so it's not down there. Yeah, it's a beach. It's a wonderful place with turtles and pelicans and other things. So that's what we got going on. How's the college basketball working out for you, pal?
It has been a good stretch over the last 2 weeks. It's been good to kind of get things back in order. But yeah, still kind of drying the tears on some respects. But how's it been on your end?
It's been good, except when I share picks with you. So I highly recommend you just bet the other way of me today. It really is uncanny. I was on a run. I put like five bets in the chat. The first one hit, and then the next 3 or 4 just lost. And I said, you know what, screw it. If I share anything with JJ or Keg, it just goes to hell. So that's about it. Tell Big T to give you some new gear. Cole, it's not happening, bro. He's not going out. He's not going to FedEx. That's all I could say. That shit's not coming. This thing's 2 years old. It's falling apart. He refuses to send me anything new, JJ.
I could send you a new RPS Run Pure Bet shirt.
I would love that.
You got it.
I would love that.
Expect it in the mail in a few days.
What does it look like? This?
It looks like the shirt you have on.
I'll take a new one. Pal. It'll be great. Hi, Gary. It's wonderful to be back. It took me a little while to get on this show this year, but I'm back when it's most important.
So I have two things before we get to college basketball.
Yeah.
One is your thoughts on what's going on with baseball and how you think that's going to play out. Another is a new dessert that I've kind of found that I enjoy, that the missus kind of makes fun of me about. So I'm interested in your thoughts there.
Can we do the dessert first?
We could do the dessert first. So what's your take on Italian ice, Holden?
Oh, chocolate Italian ice. There is nothing better than chocolate Italian ice. I grew up on that stuff when I lived in New York. I was a little kid, and I've been searching for Italian ice. I finally found these chocolate popsicles and Sprouts, and it reminds me of Italian ice. They're healthier too because Italian ice is made out of basically nuclear waste, and they mix it up, put some color in it and flavoring, and it tastes delicious. But I'm a big Italian ice guy. How about you?
So yeah, so I'm a big. So I used to eat lemon ice all the time when I was younger, but over the last few years, I've become more accustomed to rainbow ice. It's a little mix of lemon, blue, and blueberry and strawberry.
Mm.
And then I put rainbow sprinkles over the top of it. Now I've been told I'm a bit of an idiot for doing that. But I enjoy it. Like, like I don't think people always think like, oh, well, I'll put chocolate sprinkles on Italian ice, or like in your spot with the chocolate ice. Or you must like places like Rita's too, where you can do the ice and the ice cream
Rita's
together.
bullshit. Rita's is not Italian ice. I mean, you live with a bunch of Italians. Go get some Italian ice. Also, that is like a 4-year-old. Like that shit my son would do. Just throw 3 different flavors in there, put some fucking sprinkles and some gummy bears, and we're all set.
It's like the greatest fucking dessert. And to your point, like I can't really do dairy anymore. I don't think I'm lactose intolerant. I'm just my body just rejects it. So rainbow ice ice in general is a good little, and of course, Christopher saying they're Jimmy's, not sprinkles. That's a Southern thing, right, Holden? The Jimmy's?
I've never heard of a Jimmy is a condom.
You see, it depends the part of the world you're from, right?
Or your age.
Jimmy, and Chris, you could correct me if I'm wrong. I think Jimmy's is a Southern thing where they refer to sprinkles as Jimmy's. And clearly on the West Coast, Jimmy's are condoms.
The South is dumb. No, actually, I was living in Chicago when Jimmy hats were a big thing. If you've ever listened to Belle Biv DeVoe, it was all about the Jimmies. So I think it's an age thing, JJ. What was the other thing you want to know about baseball?
Oh, real quick, Lance is asking any plays. We'll land the plane, Lance.
No, we're just here to talk about Italian ices and his dad accusing football players of not being straight. The important stuff in the world.
So I wanted your take because a lot of people have some interesting takes on what's going on with baseball. I know you follow it a lot. You got great contacts. What do you think is going on with baseball? When do you think it's going to start up?
I mean, I set the line at April 15th a long time ago. I don't know how they start earlier than that now. You've got John Heyman, who is up the owner's asses, who I one time called John Hyman, and he got really upset at me. But that's what I call him from now on. So John Hyman is on the owner's side. You've got, which is fascinating because he's Scott Boris's little pimp. And then on the other side of things, you've got the players say, oh, this morning I woke up and it was like, oh, they're coming closer to an agreement. I don't buy it. I don't think they start on time. I think that at the very least they miss a week, maybe even 2 of the regular season, Dunkel. So I'm not feeling great about baseball. Until I see that a deal is done, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. So that's me. How about you?
April 15th, do you think because April 15th, to me, they could still probably squeeze 162 in.
They won't.
With just less breaks.
They won't.
You still think they'll get 162 in?
They said we're not doing it. They said we're not. I don't know why, because the owners are actually going to lose money by doing that. But they said if we don't hit that on February 28th, is today the 28th or is that tomorrow?
That is tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, right? So if they don't do it by tomorrow, it's done.
Do you and I troll the hell out of Joey Work? Because Joey Work seemed to be adamant that they were going to they were going to play an entire season this year.
He still might be right. I have not heard from Joey Work in ages, though. I don't know. What is that guy doing? What is he up to?
He's busy guy.
Is he just selling hot sauce and other shit? Is he doing all right?
I think he's entered. Yeah, I think he's entered at a pretty high stake level. The card selling,
the what,
unboxing and all that stuff. He's doing it on TikTok, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Haven't heard from him in a long time. So hopefully he'll be back. He'll be back doing baseball for us this year, and that'll be nice.
Yeah. And one thing I want to comment on your headset. It's interesting seeing a guy of your stature wearing an Xbox headset.
That's what I was sent.
What you were sent? Was that sent from Run Pure or
no? It was sent from VEASAN. This is
okay.
Run Pure would have sent me like a hand mic, just a little wireless mic for $29.99.
All right, so let's start talking on some of these games.
Why?
I'll ask you real quick because I've always I know you don't believe, but I've always enjoyed your opinions on these games.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that's cool. Let's do it.
Are you still hammering the Big Ten?
No. I am not hammering the Big Ten. I'm so off the big. You know what I bet this year? I bet Kansas basketball. I bet the Big Sky, and I bet the Mountain West. Nobody in the East Coast even knows about the Big Sky, and the Mountain West has been a blast, man. There are some good teams in the Mountain West. Like I've been all over Colorado State this year. Thank God they had a nice night last night. But that's what I bet, JJ. Like when the tournament comes, we just hope to get hot, right? Like all of us got hot at the right time, at the same time last year. It was just the same time we all went nuts, and let's see if it happens again.
Yeah, so it's funny you say about the Mountain West because my dad asked me yesterday, who do you think are some dark horses to make a decent run in March? He's like, not like the top 5 or 10 teams, any dark horse. I said, I'll be honest, I'm hoping 6 teams from the Mountain West get in. That is a fun conference to watch. I mean, there's like, I think 4 of the top 15 KenPom rated players are in that conference. That conference is filled with studs, teams that play really good defense, teams that shoot as soon as they get off the bus. That team, those are the types of teams that you don't want to be seeing on your side of the bracket, especially early rounds. What's your thoughts there?
CSU has been my team. I absolutely love Colorado State. The problem is at some point in time, they're going to face a team that is just longer and more athletic, but they do have a kid by the name of David Roddy. And if you don't know Roddy, man, the dude is he's like a mini Charles Barkley type of thing for college. Graham Ike and Hector Maldonado with Wyoming. Boise State's a good team. No one wants to play San Diego State because they slow the game down. But I just saw something in the chat. Can you put Christopher Hoy's message up there? Because this is a wonderful talking point. The Zags lost to a top 25 team and they're frauds. I mean, they lost one fucking game in the conference and they're frauds now. Yeah, I completely disagree with you, Christopher. I feel like you were probably waiting this whole season. You probably said it 2 times earlier in the year when they lost games to ranked teams. And when they lose in the Final Four, they're probably frauds too. That's a great basketball team, man.
What's your take on them? What's your take on them though? Because I'm at the point now, and I remember Varn from RG was always big on Gonzaga. I think he's a fan as well. And I'm okay. I was okay with it years back with multiple people loving the Zags every year. Like, is it just me? Like, I felt like there's been like 3 or 4 seasons over the last decade where they've had hands down the best team in D1, and they've been unable to hoist the trophy. I think that at some point, like people have to say, I can't say they're going to win it all until they at least win one. Like, I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know what it is. This team is like so consistent to get to the Elite 8, Sweet 16 every year, and every year loses. Either, sometimes they make the championship like they did last year and lose. What's your take on them just not being able to cross the finish line?
Everybody says this about every school. I always hear this about Kansas. They're like, man, Bill Self, don't you want him out? I'm like, are you kidding me? They've been in the tournament every year since I went to school there. They started the year before. I think it's been like 30 years that they've got 30-something years they've gone to the tournament. And Bill Self, it's impossible. It's not easy to win an NCAA tournament. It's like Coach K. All right, he made it look easy. Roy Williams with the North Carolina, he made it look easy. And for everybody else, it's tough. I mean,
at least was Self there? I don't remember what was it, 09 or 10? What year did they win it? 08, 07? Kansas won it one of those years, didn't they?
08, 2008.
Was he there when they won it?
Yeah, and we got lucky because Brandon Rush got hurt and had to come back for his senior year. It's very, very.
At least I'd argue people that would say that it's like, hey, look, at least they have one. And then look, they play in that tough conference. Like Gonzaga cakewalks into the madness every year as a 1 seed, and it just seems like they always let down. And I don't know if it's like, do you think it's because they don't schedule enough difficult games in the year that they're not prepared when they do get smacked in the mouth in one game?
They just went to the championship last year, Dunkel. What do you want? Seriously.
I want people who knob slob this team that they're the best team in basketball and they're going to win the championship. Okay. I want them to win one before I have to hear everybody every year knob slob this team. That's what I want.
Yeah, they're a great team. All right, and they're still number 1 in KenPom. Maybe they'll drop. I don't know, but everybody in the top 6 lost yesterday, didn't they? Like that's really the story. Every freaking team lost yesterday. Listen, the odds are that Gonzaga is not going to win the tournament, just because there's so many good teams in there. But to just rip them because they think the schedule is bad, the conference schedule is bad. Yeah, they dominate the conference. They also play a pretty tough non-conference schedule earlier in the year. Now, they lost 2 of those games. So maybe this team isn't as great as they've been in the past, but they're still one of the top 4 teams in the nation.
I don't think anybody's saying they're not.
Yeah.
I think what people are more or less saying, it's hard for me to rationally say this is one of the best teams in college basketball when I see this team every year in the finals or quarterfinals or semifinals lose without making. Now, last year was the year they made it, but if you look at their path to get there last year, I mean, things just fell right in front of them. And the one tough match they finally got was UCLA. They almost lost, and then they just get trampled by Baylor. It's just it's very difficult for even me to objectively figure out why this team can't just win one championship. 6 games, played the right way with the talent they've had. I'd even argue that years back when they had Sabonis, that team was really fucking good.
Last year was a great team, but they ran into a team
last year was probably the best team they've had. Last year was definitely, I think, the best team they've had.
No question.
And the Sabonis team they had years before, I thought that was a really good team. But yeah, either way, it's I don't like I said I don't look at it like when people say, "Oh, Gonzaga sucks." I think it's more or less the fact that people want to see them win, which I'm at the point now where I kind of want to see them win one before I host the trophy in front of their hands, like so many others do. That's all I'm looking for.
I'm not picking them to win the championship going into this thing. I'm not, because they're going to be the favorite, right? They'll be right up there. I think Kentucky will be up there. What other teams are going to be up there? Duke will be up there. Kansas will be up there. All those teams. Baylor, even though they lost Chachua, they'll be up there too. They had a great win last night. So again, it's tough to win a championship. You would think that Gonzaga would take that Dunkel. The interesting thing about that is I was there when the whole Gonzaga program was born. It was the NCAA tournament in Seattle. And this is probably 1998. And they had a guy, Casey Calvary, and Dan Munson was their head coach. Remember Dan Munson? Yeah. Well, you probably weren't even born yet.
I do remember Dan Munson.
That's when it started. And they were this nothing. They were a nothing program. They had John Stockton. That's all they had to build. But to be this successful, I don't care what conference you're in, to be this successful now for 25 years, it's a great program. They get to the tournament. It doesn't work out for them. It doesn't work out for most teams. What's another team that's great that hasn't won?
I just think Gonzaga is so unique, right? Which is what makes it difficult to compare them against any other team. I think that they've been an absolute dominant mid-major team going back 2 decades, or even a decade and a half, depending how detailed you want the word, dominant. But I think overall, it's very tough to compare an apples to apples, because if you're in a Power 5 conference and you're a really good team every year, you're going to get beat up in conference play. It's just inevitable. Yeah. They're very difficult because there's no team like them year in and year out that is just foreign. There's good teams that pop up year in, like Murray State pops around now and again. There's other mid-majors that pop around, Belmont, that do pop around, from year to year. But Gonzaga's been so consistently at the top of the mid-major programs in college basketball, and they've been able to play with the big boys during the regular season. It's just so odd. It's almost unexplainable how they can't make one run end to end during that stretch.
Yep. Well, I'm with you. I still think it's, one of the great programs in the country. And, at some point in time, Few's got to win this thing.
Yep.
So it takes a long time to get there. It's been a long time for Arizona. It's been a long time for, I don't know, just think about some other programs where it's been a long time since they've made those great deep runs. UCLA, still, terrific program. They're up there. When was the last time they won? 1995. We saw they had all these teams with Bill Walton, and they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or whatever, Lou Alcindor back in the day. No, did he go there? I don't even remember. I think he did. Yeah, because he played for what's his face. I can't even think. What's his face? John Wooden. So there's great programs
he was an okay coach.
Yeah, he was all right. But here, he only had 4 other teams that were good every year. So, does that make him not as different era? So that's where I am with that. I just want to talk about this stupid bet my friend just made. You ready to get into this?
It's actually, I want to talk on them as well. So fire away.
Okay. All right. Let's get into this slate here, because Georgetown has lost 17 straight. And they host Connecticut today. Connecticut, 21st ranked team in the nation. I'm seeing about 10 or 11, depending on where you shop. 145.5 is the total. So this guy's a millionaire, but he placed $70 on the money line for UConn to win today at -600. And he says he's been doing that every single game for the last, I think it was 13. Once they had lost, I'm screwed. I'm just going to bet against these guys. And I really hope he loses today, because for all the bets that he has won on the money line, long term, I just hope he loses. I hope he loses this week. I hope he loses next week. I'm rooting against him because it's just a dumb bet, JJ. It's stupid. And every single week he's betting -5, -6, -700.
So what I will say is Georgetown is in quite an interesting stretch, and Ewing is in a unique situation too with how this team's playing.
It's done.
This team somehow, some way gets brutalized against big men, gets killed against 3-point shooters. There's like very little this team does well on the defensive end, which I think you have to point towards discipline, right? Which I do blame Ewing for in some respects. But it does seem like their talent pool just isn't the type of team they normally have. And their offensive schemes are just odd to watch. Don't get me wrong; they have playmakers at times that can get to the rack and get to the rim and score and can make outside shots. But they're too reliant on that. The ball kind of sticks in that offense, and defensively, like I said, you can kind of just every game target the big men for the guy they're playing or the team they're playing. Just his rebounds over, his player points over. So like today, for instance, they the big man is it Senego for UConn?
Yeah.
Senago. But either way, he's I don't love his offensive efficiency for a big man, but and he doesn't take he doesn't make a whole lot of shots considering how much the ball's touching his hands. He should be in for a game though today. So I mean you could target, I think his player prop, I'm looking at DK. So 14.5, 120. You can play that over if you'd like. I personally did not bet it. I think it's just a tad high for me. But I could see, again, these are the spots where these guys just do really well against Georgetown and 3-point shooters. So you can even go towards, I mean, UConn's really doesn't have a whole lot of 3-point shooters, but Tyrese Martin's a good sniper for them. And his number's at 13.5. You can probably play Senago and him over, and you're very likely to go at worst 1-1. So just some interesting things to think about there. But in relation to this game, look, Georgetown's been a relatively good first half team, believe it or not. But oof, this team can get blown the doors off in the second halves of games. So I can't excuse anybody who's riding the fade of Georgetown. I will say this from a contrarian perspective: Georgetown is often a team I love to bet in favor of, but I've lost a lot of money myself betting on Georgetown this year, so I'm kind of over that. But I do think there's some player props you can target again if you have access to DraftKings Sportsbook. I think you could go Senago and Martin. There's a much better shot you're going to go 2-0 than 0-2. Of course, you could go 0-2. But again, the idea that a team's best big man and a team's best 3-point shooter have just been killing Georgetown during this run. And I know that you're not taking UConn's best player, who's RJ Cole. But again, we haven't really seen best player guards do well against Georgetown. I mean, of course, in small samples, there's probably been a few that have. But again, 3-point shooters and big men, so you could feel free to target that. And anything you like in that game overall, Holden?
First of all, about that, if there's a prop on how many turnovers that Georgetown has today, I don't think you could bet that, but I would put it at a minimum 15.5 is where I'm setting it. They just turned the ball over like 17 times the other day. The other thing is in Colorado, you can eat psychedelic mushrooms, smoke weed, have heroin on you, but you can't bet college player props. So a little bit of a disappointing.
That's unfortunate, but yes, I do think there's some value with the spots mentioned. And I think, like I said, I think you could. I'm not going to the well, but I think you can bet Georgetown first half instead of betting full game. You're better off betting first half, I think, because Georgetown just seems to have this mental part about them that when they are losing games at halftime or close at halftime, or they have a small lead at halftime, they just mentally can't get over the hump. And once they go down like 8 or 10, it's like this team just gives up. So I don't think the spread really matters in the sense. Like I think this team will either lose by 20 plus today or potentially win outright. But either way, it's a stay away spot for me.
So let's get to SMU and Houston. And this one, we've got what? Here's another 11-point spread. Houston -11, 137 is the total here. And Houston's running an 8-man rotation, right? So they've had some injuries there. They've won 3 straight. SMU is an interesting team, though. They've won some games this season. They're 20-6. And I don't think this is going to be an easy one for Houston, even though it's at home. 11 points is a lot, though, dude. 11 points is a lot there. I didn't bet this game, but I think that's a little bit too much in this game.
Yeah, so here's my problem with this Houston team. Without Sasser, that's the name, right? Marcus Sasser, right? Without him, this team really lacks a 3-point game. And even last year, I forgot the guy's name, but they had Sasser and another guy. he was a senior last year, that were just 3-point machines. Now this team is so reliant on getting offensive rebounds and having their sets work with getting easy baskets. SMU doesn't play great defense, so I'm sure they could find, wiggle room around there. But the problem is, like, SMU can shoot. So, SMU can definitely shoot to keep themselves in it. And I'm more concerned that Houston's not going to be able to pull away the way they like to. Like, you're going to have to get a really bad game shooting from SMU, which you can get. Houston has that type of upside defensively. It's concerning to me. I'm hoping they can get Sasser back before the madness, because it just creates them. First of all, from a spreading the floor perspective, if you've watched Houston play, like when they've played good teams over their last recent stretch, teams like Memphis and a few others, no one fears this team from beyond the arc. So they're able to collapse the defense inside and force this team to work harder for shots inside the arc. And, you get a guy like Sasser back, it will spread the floor out a little more for them. Right now, they've just been a little too compact, and they play a team like SMU that can fire from outside. I think the way Houston covers here, you're going to have to get a really bad shooting game from SMU, which could happen. But it's a stay away spot for me. I don't trust Houston enough to lay the number without, their outside shooters against a relatively good team in SMU. And I don't want to bet SMU, because if this team goes down and they start to become a little too 3-point heavy, which they can at times, and they're not falling, they could blink and be down quite a bit. So stay away spot for me. Anything you love in this spot, Holden?
No, I think we're going to talk about them, though. We got to talk about Kendrick Davis. He's a guy that's up there as maybe the most valuable player in the whole league, in the AAC. So that's somebody to look for over on the SMU side. But I'm with you, and Sasser there was a game in the tournament last year. Didn't he just go bananas from behind the arc? So
yeah, he won them. He practically won them the one game. On his own. But again, him being able to spread the floor outside, they just haven't had that without him on the floor. And they just don't have a lot of playmakers, guys that can find their own shots themselves. They really rely on the ball not sticking, and without spreading the floor, teams are really just collapsing inside. And hopefully he gets there back, because I think this team definitely has upside to win it all. But they're going to need a player like Sasser back, a guy that can stretch the floor.
Okay, so the next one's an interesting one, JJ. Before we do that, what do we got going on at Run Pure Bets? Got any deals, any promo codes we can get out there?
Yeah, so as always, the best 25 off for any new members to sign up. You'll get 25% off for the whole week, month, whatever you'd like. I'm still doing a bunch of college basketball. I have a bunch of plays up today, but I'll give 2 on this video. Look, tennis, this is the best time of the year to be a tennis fan, because you get a ton of tournaments all around the same time, especially with the French coming in a few very short months, and Wimbledon right after. You just get a lot of these, ATP and WTA 500, 1000 tournaments overlapping each other. It's just like all day of tennis from, 12 a.m. all the way to 12 p.m. with different tournaments.
Sounds really
That's fun as well. Kegs, NASCAR's back, right? So that means, Kegs back in full force there. Spread and Tyler just continue to crush NBA with the daily shows and daily rundowns. And as we get closer to playoffs there, and hopefully we can get baseball right around the corner, which is always fun, and March Madness before it all. So, should be a fun stretch over the next month and a half, and really looking forward to it.
All right, here's an interesting game that we got coming up here with Illinois at Michigan, because we still don't have our boy Juwan Howard. I never got your thoughts on that. What did you think of the 5-gamer for him? I thought it was perfect, by the way.
I think
what I predicted.
I think instead of slapping the guy, he should have punched him. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think he should have just completely cold clocked him. Like, that guy had no business even being around him. I don't know what was said, what wasn't. Now, with that said, I know the people that are like, oh, immature, and you got coaches held to a certain standard and blah, 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 blah. Look, at the end of the day, they haven't had a good season, or haven't had a great season per the preseason priors. And a little frustration there. And I think his players will react to it in a positive way. Maybe you'll see a different team from them, after his 5-game suspension. But either way, to me, why half-ass it? It's like it's like that big, Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons brawl years back. Why half-ass it? You want to cold clock somebody? Make it count. I mean, that little half slap. I mean, what'd you think of that, Holden?
I thought it was a bitch move. That's what I thought it was. No, in all seriousness, though, he deserved the 5 games. Sit him out the rest of the regular season. You can't be doing that. It's a bad look. Bad look for the school. It's a bad look for NCAA. Look, instead of talking about the games, we were talking about that BS for 2 days. So I thought 5 was perfect. I thought Guard deserved a game. He only got a fine out of it because Juwan wanted to walk past him. He didn't let him walk past him. So I thought they got it right on Howard. They didn't get it right on Guard. let's go to the game, though. Illinois and Michigan. And, it was interesting. They came back, Michigan did, and they beat up Rutgers pretty good. They beat them 71-62. So I see a little bit of fight in them. Let me go get the updated odds here on this game. It's a pick'em still. All right, it's a pick'em. 142 is the total. What do you make of that? Illinois on the road, top 20 team against Michigan. Does Michigan come back down to earth today? You're the Big Ten guy. I'm not even messing with them this year.
It's funny you say that because I am absolutely not the Big Ten guy. I think I've bet on one Big Ten game all season.
Let's get off of this.
I hate this conference. So
screw it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about a shitty conference like that. Oh, you want to talk about then there's Ohio State and Maryland. Do you want to talk about that too? That shitty game?
Is this the part where I just repeat myself and say,
yes, repeat it.
I hate the Big Ten. I've bet one game all year.
Yeah. Yeah, you hate the Big Ten. You bet one game all year. So what other games you on, man? I'm on a game. I'm on a game today. I could talk to you about it.
I am on a game that I really like at 2:30. It is a mid-major game.
What is it?
In the A10. So George Mason is hosting George Washington. I absolutely love George Mason in this spot. So you can get it either 9.5, 10. I got it 9.5 DK. Trying to see if it's still there.
I see 9.5 at Mirage, but I don't think they have they don't have a mobile app. So I'm seeing 10 everywhere.
Yeah, it's still 9.5 DK. I know it's 10 at a few spots.
It is 9.5 DK.
Yeah, so minus 115.
Okay. It's 10 here in Colorado. We get different lines. It's really fascinating how you guys have lines and we have lines. Yeah. It's a rivalry game too, by the way. They're both DC teams. George Mason's just out there. These two teams don't like each other, so it's not a bad game to pick. Why do you like Mason so much today?
So I have this number actually past 13.5 on my end. This is your typical get right spot for George Mason. George Washington has been a very below average team in this conference this season. They've played a few good games. They obviously upset Rhode Island a few games back, and they played Richmond kind of tough, I guess. But with that said, they're going to speed this game up, and so I know that I think they upset George Mason earlier in the season in their gym. But since then, George Mason's played tremendous basketball. I know that they're in the middle of a tough stretch, but they've also had a tough scheduling stretch over this last, call it 2 to 3 weeks. This team's extremely efficient offensively. They do play slow, but George Washington speeding this game up, I think on a per possession basis, is going to give Mason more looks, and this team can absolutely fire from 2 and 3. If they just push the ball inside, they have tremendous advantages inside against this GW defense. And GW's offense is extremely below average, shooting the 3, shooting the 2, drawing fouls. Even when they get to the free throw line, they're very poor at converting. Again, they've had a few decent games in this stretch. And I just think this is going to be a lot of one and done for George Washington. George Mason is just an extremely efficient offense. And they have a bunch of different scorers that haven't really played well recently. This is a good spot in their gym, right in that Fairfax, VA. This game gets played. Oh
yeah, not too far from Dad. I would say probably.
I was going to say, it's
25 minutes, depending on the traffic. Dad could go to that game today.
And I just think overall, these are spots I always love to target in college basketball, where a below average team has played a few bad teams. They've looked better than what they actually look like. And you have a really good team in Mason who's played other really good teams in their conference recently, so they look worse than they've been. Ultimately, it's what moves the line to what it is right now. And you get a softer number versus what you would have if these two teams met like a month ago or so. So I think, look, at the end of the day, George Mason fires up threes. They fire up a ton of them. And if they're not hitting them, sure, they could lose outright today. But I do believe they're going to stick and being able to spread the floor and work the inside game as well. All around, I think they cover this number. I like it at 9.5. I'll be honest, I wouldn't have played it at like 12. But it's not 12, it's 9.5 and 10. So I do like the spot. So again, George Mason in a nice little bounce back spot for them. And I don't like laying chalk like this, but again, when the spot's right, you got to jump at it. And I like this minus 9.5. It's minus 115 DK.
How'd you find that one? Seriously, I think this is a good conversation. So I just focus on 2 conferences and one other team outside of that. How'd you find this game out of all the games in D1 today?
So I'm consistently looking for spots like this one. Like I'm looking for so first of all, when I looked at the lines today, 9.5 stuck out to me because I'm like, wait a minute, Mason's so much better than why is it 9.5? So then I look at the games we most recently played, and I'm making sure players aren't injured or whatnot. And then I see that, oh, well, okay, so Washington's played a few decent games recently, and Mason's lost 7 of 9. So I could see why this. Now, some people look at that as, why would you back a team like George Mason, whose season is kind of slowly coming off the rails? Well, I'd argue this team's a lot better than they've played recently. It's a small sample. It's a 2-week sample over a long season. They've looked really good at times this season. So, yeah, ultimately, I'll look at lines initially that poke out to me, and then I'll dig deeper into them. This line originally poked out to me because from the little I've seen of George Mason from afar, I know they're a much better team than Washington. So the 9.5 stuck out to me, and then you dig deeper and you see why it is that. And then you just kind of, objectively try to rationalize what makes sense from there in terms of the number. And yeah, to me, this number's off. And we can even go back scale to what the line was when they played, months ago, where Mason was a decent sized favorite back then. So I think you're getting some also added line value here, especially since they also lost to this team. So there's also that revenge narrative if you're into that. But overall, that's kind of how I get there, and then, kind of how the plane lands.
Okay, I like that. Good. That's how you found it. I just, like I said, you handle it so much differently than I do, and some other people do too. But I got a game today, but I want to get to a couple other games that we're going to talk about. If you want to talk about other games, is there anything else you're seeing? Because we just went through the top 25 games today. 2 were from the Big Ten. So you and I are not fucking with that whatsoever. And I don't
yes, another big bet for me today is going to be Montana State.
God damn it.
Yeah, so
well, you better take that bet back, because that's my game.
Okay, so you know what? I'll let you talk on it first. Tell me who you like, who you don't like, and then I'll give you my perspective.
I think I like 2 things in this game. It's now down to a pick 'em. Montana State. You know what they call this rivalry?
I don't.
It's the brawl of the wild. The brawl of the wild. I love it, right? They also, the West Coast teams are the mountain teams. Like the Wyoming plays in the Dome of Doom. There's so many cool things going out here in the middle of nowhere. So Montana State's won 12 of 13, right? They're coming back after a week off. While they play slow, they're still averaging almost 77 points per game. So they're a very efficient team. I think Montana State has the better offense. Their offense is surging, and the Grizzlies that's Montana Grizzlies. They're going the other direction. So the thing here is Montana State hasn't won at Montana in ages. And Montana plays pretty good basketball at home too, but they've lost 3 of 4, and they're dropping down. I think they're 5th in the Big Sky now. So they've lost 5 of 7. I know that I had a hard time backing Montana State here, JJ, but I think this is the first time in a long time that it happens that Montana State actually sweeps the series here. They're 13-3. They lead the Big Sky. I've seen that from the eye test. They're pretty damn, they're pretty damn good for the competition they're going up against them. So again, a little bit of a layoff here. Montana, while the defense has not been good, 70 points or more in 6 of 7. So I got 2 bets from here. I got Montana State. It's a pick 'em right now. And then I have over 67.5 team total for Montana State as well. What do you got on this one?
So,
other way? You're going the other way.
I agree with Montana State. So,
go bet Montana, everybody.
Yeah. So, and what's interesting to me is I looked at this game, and at first glance, I really liked Montana. Yeah. But when you really, pull back the curtain on this game from end to end, I will say this: I don't love the team total over, like you said. Montana has just been a nut under team with their pace, and they're going to concede pace as well. And if you look at the way the first game played out, there was just no possessions in that game. Now, the good part is both these teams foul a ton, so you can.
By the way, real quick, Montana State still scored 66 in that game. They still get to 66 points, and these 2 teams play slow, but Montana State is better. Montana State is much more efficient too. But please go on.
Yeah, so this is your typical what I'll call sharp square type of betting matchup, right? Like your typical, quote unquote sharper folks are going to want to back Montana in this spot at home as the, pick 'em spot against a team that's won a ton of games in conference. But again, when you break down these teams, Montana is like the worst, like second worst team in D1 on the offensive glass.
They're bad.
So they are as much one and done as exists in college basketball. And Montana is going to have to force a lot of turnovers here to stay in it. And then like when you look at it, like so Montana doesn't take a whole lot. Montana State doesn't take a whole lot of 3-pointers, but when they do, they absolutely cash in on them. And Montana is so bad defending the three. Now I know Montana State the first time these two met were only 6 for 12 from behind the arc. I would expect them to fire a few more up there. You just look at this game from all angles. Like Montana most often fouls more. Montana State gets to the free throw line more. Montana State's better on offense. Montana State's much better on defense. Mm-hmm. It is hard to ignore a lot of these numbers you're seeing now. Granted, to me, the way this gets there is if the refs slide the edge in contact wise in Montana's favor. If Montana gets to the line a lot, that is going to be a big problem for Montana State because Montana, like if you look at their offense, Holden, especially through KenPom,
they're bad.
They're fifth most in D1 on their points getting converted from the free throw line. They don't do any damage from 3 and from 2 over a long stretch of a game. They are so reliant on getting to the free throw line, and they convert at 80%, so they want to get there. And Montana State does foul. So to me, the way Montana wins this game is if Montana gets to the free throw line like 30 or 35 times, which could happen. But if they get there that many times, they should be able to convert, 27 to 30 of those out of 35 or 40, whatever it is, close to 80%. And then that's their path to victory because Montana State is going to put a lot of pressure on this team offensively to keep pace. And I don't know, the strategy on Montana. And I also felt like if you watch some of the game tape on the game and even looked at some of the box score from it, I think Montana outplayed them the first game and they still lost. So I think overall, I think the spot makes a lot of sense. And again, this is going to be your typical, your I don't want to say your square player are going to be on with me and Holden on this one, but more than likely probably be the case. I just you look at the numbers. How could you ignore it? That Montana State is so much of a better team. It would be very shocking to me if late in this game, it's not a very close game or Montana State's winning by quite a few. It would be awfully surprising if late in this game Montana State's like down 10. It would just be very surprising. Montana would have to have a really odd game shooting in a positive way, which they haven't had in a long time. So yeah, I love the spot. I'm glad we're on the same page there. I'm not as keen on the over with the team total, primarily because Montana's path to victory here is to really slow this game down.
Right.
And I think they're going to try their hardest too, which could limit possessions. But overall, I do like the spot.
By the way, pick'em. I mean, this thing was interesting because it opened as a pick'em. Then Montana was the favorite. Then Montana State overnight became a favorite. And now you can get Montana State at +1. So that's interesting. The way this line has moved. So again, you want to talk about a random game that both of us are on. I'm on it just because I bet the Big Sky. And you dug it up too. So let's see how that works out today. That'll be an interesting game. Can I ask? Let me ask you about Temple real quick. Have you even looked at Temple and Tulane?
I have looked at that game.
Okay, so this is an interesting one too. Temple is visiting Tulane, right? And they got that kid.
Temple's home.
Temple's at home against Tulane. Okay, my bad. And they got the kid. What is it? Damian Dunn. He's not a bad basketball player there, but I want to get your thoughts on this one more than anything else. I was digging into it, and I kind of like Tulane today, and I want to get your thoughts on whether or not that's a good or bad bet because I have not put it in yet. And I want to get your thoughts first.
Yeah, expect ugly basketball from both. I think overall, Tulane should put a lot of offensive pressure on Temple because look, at the end of the day, Temple plays relatively good defense. They are absolutely abysmal on offense. Even like their best player, you mentioned Damian Dunn. I'd argue he's extremely inefficient for a team's best player. I think he shoots like 42% from 2 and 32% from 3. He's not a very efficient player. And despite his usage rate in the offense, I think he actually hurts this team more than he helps, believe it or not.
Really?
But again, there's more factors to that though, right, Holden? Because Temple has been missing 2 of their key studs for most of the season. And I think he's been forced to do more. I think defenses have been able to key in on him. With the other 2 players back, I think you see his efficiencies go up. And I think you see his scoring stay around where it was. but with more efficiency. I think he's being forced to be the guy. I don't think he's talented enough to be the guy. And I think that's why you're seeing the struggling he's been doing it from an efficiency standpoint. Still a very good player. I want to be clear. I don't want that to be unnoticed. I just think with teams being able to focus in on him, it's been tough. Now, good part for them is Tulane doesn't play great defense. They're okay. But what they are is extremely efficient from 3-point range. Now Temple can guard the three pretty well. I'm just thinking if you get a Tulane team in this spot that's able to stick threes, and they certainly have dudes that can stick them. Temple's going to be looking a long way back. I think Temple has to do their best to value each possession, and Temple has to do a lot on the offensive glass. I don't know if that'll be the case, but if they can do a lot of work on the offensive glass, which is their biggest advantage in this game, and of course getting to the free throw line. But the Tulane doesn't really foul that much. That's why I think the offensive glass is very important. And Tulane's going to have to miss their threes, which could happen. I just think it's more in favor of Tulane in this spot. So I'm with you there. I didn't love it enough to want to bet it. I did look through various things in this game. I just think that to me, if you told me Tulane shoots 35% from three today, I think Tulane wins outright. But I think it's very realistic that they might shoot under 35% today. And if they do, they could lose by more than 10. So that's kind of where my head was at. I didn't want to make this bet with the understanding, with the hope that a team in Tulane who shoots the three ball really well, going up against a team in Temple who defends the three really well, and needing Tulane to stick their threes to hang around. So that's why I stayed away. But ultimately, I do lean the Tulane side at the current moment.
Yeah, most of my and by the way, in that first game, Tulane won that game 92-83. And the Owls had such bad injury issues. Nobody even averaged 8 points a game when they went in there. So they hung with Tulane. But I think this is a game I'm probably going to bet live. That's the other thing, JJ. Like, I'll probably I'll make 2 or 3 bets pregame. But as far as, hey, Keg, what's up, buddy? I was just looking at Keg here. But as far as that, I don't even know what my train of thought was there. So let's just move on. We're all done. I'm going to bet it live. I'm going to bet this one live. I want to see if I can get a better number on Tulane, but I kind of like them at +3.
Yeah,
that's just my thoughts. What was the other thing? So you got it. You got the money line at -110. Okay, cool. Pick them -110. Bet Rivers. You can get it 107. I mean, it's little itty bitty things. As far as the line goes, but anything else we got to get in with here? We're getting some cockamamie things.
No, I guess we could take questions for a few minutes if people want. But other than that, I gave out my 2 picks. You like Montana State. Is there another bet I know you mentioned something. Another bet you're thinking about pregame?
Well, I was thinking about the Tulane thing, but I'm off of that. Again, the 2 bets I have from that game is Montana State money line. I'd even go -1. There, if you can get it at even money if you wanted to do that, JJ. I don't think that's a big deal if you want to go -1. And then the team total over 67.5. I get it, the paces suck, but man, this Montana State team has been putting up points. I get it's a rivalry game, but Montana's defense stinks. I'm looking at the team total over there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I know that Eric said he likes Montana money line. I don't mind it. I think you're going to see a lot of your sharper followers or whomever are going to probably be on Montana. Again, you dig into the game, and I mean, it would take quite a drastic game for Montana State to lose here. They're just so much more talented, end to end. And I get it. This spot is normally a spot where you want to bet the home team here. But again, this has been a pretty epic year for Montana State, and I'm sure they're eyeing this sweep more than some of the other games that they have even coming up. So I think that's why I really agree with you. This is not a spot we would often agree on, but I definitely agree here.
Because it's a square play.
I think this is a historical play that gets called a square play. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, Montana's a tough place to play. The Battle of the Wild. I mean, how can you not just get so interested in this one? The Brawl of the Wild, excuse me. How can you not get interested in a game that is named that, JJ? How is it possible?
Hard not to. Not to.
It really is hard not to. Anything else we want to get? Eric is on the Montana. That's fine. I think the Mavs root the Warriors. Okay. The Chip, the Mavs are rooting the Warriors today. That'll be interesting to watch. And then Harvard +3 and Illinois. Okay. I did not look at Harvard today. That was not a game that I broke down. So That's where we are, JJ.
Yeah, I think the Harvard Princeton is similar to the Montana State. Princeton's just so much better of a team. But the difference is, right? So the difference is there you have to lay 3.5, right? We're able to just get a pick up with Montana or Montana State. You have to lay the 3 or 3.5 with Princeton. Princeton's had a phenomenal year. I mean, for their standards, I mean, in terms of what you're used to with that conference, like we're used to like Harvard, Cornell kind of being the cream of the Ivy Leagues. Princeton has had a phenomenal season. This is an offense that, as the cool kids say, fucks. I mean, this team shoots from 3. This team bangs from 2. And this team literally shoots as soon as they get off the bus. This team reminds me a lot of your typical Cornell teams. And I just think they're just so much better than Harvard. But again, Harvard in their gym, I'm sure is going to come to play today, or try to at least. But you have an extreme mismatch there from the 3-ball perspective. Princeton can make it rain, and Harvard just lets people shoot wide open threes all game long. So I think if you're betting Harvard, you're really banking on Princeton missing open 3-pointers all game, which could happen. And it just wasn't a spot I wanted to play. And again, Harvard is a typical spot I would play here. Again, considering these two just met and Harvard lost. And now you're getting a little bit of a better number in favor of Harvard, a little bit. I just don't think Princeton won the first game, and it wasn't really as close as the game indicated. It was a little foul trouble in some respects on the Princeton end, but Princeton was able to make their threes, of course, because they were wide open when they were shooting them. And Harvard shot relatively well and still lost. So I just think you're in a similar boat, but instead you have to lay 3.5, and wasn't a fan.
Can I finish with just a baseball note before we get out of here?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, and by the way, JJ is going to be on VSiN tonight at 7:30 Eastern time. I'm excited about.
Yeah, what are we going to be talking about there? Is it going to be like a surprise?
No, college basketball, I guess. I mean, there's really nothing else to talk to you about unless it's fucking Italian ices, and I don't think that's very interesting.
You could get my political takes. You could get my table tennis takes if you want.
Christopher, do not apologize. Okay, don't apologize just because I busted your balls. Okay, it's not a big deal. And second of all, baseball. Remember Zach Britton? I do. One of the best closers in the game, right? Yeah.
Well, he became a center man, but he was a closer for the O's for a bit.
Yeah, he was a great closer for the O's. And if you'll remember, I told you John Hyman is for some reason he's putting out all the information for the owners, even though he's Scott Boris's lackey. And he goes contradictory to the negativity and upset surrounding MLB player talks. One person involved said he believes the sides are now within striking distance. And then Zach Britton goes, that is not accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I told you, I think April 15th is the April 14th and a half is the over-under when they start baseball. And the longer this goes, man, they miss a full month. Can you imagine that? Like, we got to talk about it. If I didn't bet baseball, I wouldn't watch it. I'm that fed up with them. I'm that fed up.
I think it's a shame. I think I told you, last year what the fix is. I think he just makes steroids mandatory. And every Sunday you just inject these guys with juice, and
good idea.
You just watch the balls fly, and then maybe you'll start seeing pitchers throw like 105, 106, like on consistent basis, and maybe even go crazy, move the pitcher's mound up like an inch or two, make things really complicated. And I'd also do away with the shifts. I think the shifts are hurting baseball.
I think a lot of things are hurting baseball. The owners are hurting baseball. The players are hurting baseball, and they can't afford to miss time. They just can't. The only thing working for them is there's literally nothing else going on as far as major sports in this country in summer. I mean, sure, you might have some NASCAR, you got some golf, but golf's 4 days, NASCAR's 1 day a week. It's baseball.
That's the thing. I think that's been my biggest problem with the sport from a marketability standpoint is it's the only game in town for like 3 to 4 months.
No one cares.
And they still struggle to get people to watch the sport. Granted, you're old timer folks and you're passionate, baseball fans, maybe people played it growing up or whatever, or it was in their house growing up. Sure. But you're trying to catch the general sports fan to start watching baseball. And I think they've just done a terrible job marketing it. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I do think at minimum they can do certain things. Like I said, I think the shifts have really hurt baseball. You're big lefties, and me being lefty, I feel like I can relate a little bit playing softball a bunch. The shifts are annoying because you can't, you're not going to get a guy who wants to make $25 million a year who's going to start bunting for singles. It's just not going to happen. They're not paying somebody that much money to bunt when he's up, just to keep a defense honest. Like Joey Gallo, I feel like Joey Gallo, if he was playing in the early 90s, the dude probably would have had 75 home runs. Because I think, first of all, he would have been juicing. So, because everybody was juicing back then.
Good point.
And I think that he has just so much raw power. And if you take away the shifts from which weren't even existing back then, I think he would have been hitting like 280, 290 with 50, 60 power home run upside.
You know that juicing is legal right now, right?
Well, they're not testing. They're not prepared to test for it right now.
Right. Correct. So they can just go on the old school Deca Winstrol cycle and everything's good, as opposed to using the high tech shit that they use now that they get past.
Yeah, I think I'm long past. Like, I'm being honest, when I say steroids should be mandatory, I don't even think they should be taken like D-ball or Winnie V. I think it's just straight HGH. Just the things that give you warts on the foreheads, the thing that makes your neck, expand. That's the type of performance enhancing drugs I'm talking about. I mean, D-ball and Winnie V, your guys at Planet Fitness are doing that. I'm talking HGH, the real stuff.
Yeah, I was on HGH. I've told you that, though. I would have been a great jockey had I not taken it. Well, I would have been the best jockey out there. Okay, buddy. One more time with the promo code. Then I want to say one thing. Then
so guys, head over Rump Your Bets, see what we're all about. I know Kay's got a live show for NASCAR today. And he's got his own, great package that's going on there. It's only $40 a month for him. And he goes live 4 or 5 times a week. If you enjoy spending time with the Kegger and watching live shows instead of listening to color commentators that barely know what they're talking about while you're watching sports, you can get to watch him and the guys join him. And then of course, all our plays today. We've got a pretty filled sheet today of plays, and we'll have plenty of plays all week. Conference tournaments are going to be starting relatively soon as well for some of the mid majors. That'll be fun. And again, a lot of tennis on my end. Spread Tyler continue to crush NBA. So just be sure to check us out, right? Best 25 off, get you 25% off, or even merge it with the DFS end for even more discounts, because they just continue to smash on that end. It's just always been crazy. But yeah, either way, looking forward to doing more of these with you, Holden, again, and glad you're ready.
We got to do this again.
Stop it. Yeah, yeah. This is your skin's kind of like glistening. I don't know if you're using like any type of creams or anything.
I mean, it's humid. It's a little bit humid out here, so.
But I mean, look, you don't even have wrinkles in your forehead. Like, look at me.
No, I do, dude. No, if you looked closer at this, you would see I'm starting to get wrinkles and dry skin and shit because I'm getting old. But hanging out with my dad, trying to lift his spirits. And I just learned that a quarter of my family is from Ukraine. So fuck you, Putin. Go fuck yourself. And I hope you burn in hell. So there's my political statement. I know you didn't want to talk about that, but I hope you get ass raped and hung.
Yeah, so let's just be clear that you said you were not a fan of giving your take on the individuals Aaron Rodgers is attracted to, but you did prefer, but you did prefer to do that. I love it.
I think it's a less of a hot take. Like, I have proof that Putin's a piece of shit, as opposed to Aaron Rodgers. All we know is he has sex with women. So I don't know where your dad was coming from.
I promise you, he thinks he has good facts.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does, my friend. And tell him to enjoy the Mason George Washington game today. I'm sure he's going to be hanging out there with one of his new lady friends.
He probably won't. He'll probably watch a riveting game of basketball with my little sister, who's playing in her leagues where those games end 8-6, and every shot that goes up is a heart racer.
Okay. Fuck you, Putin. One more time. That's all I got to say. Go fuck yourself.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Holden, thanks again to you as well. As always, gamble responsibly, stay safe, and yes, run pure. We'll see you